Tell all your friends that this show has a lot to celebrate. We won't let anything slip past us as we get the slap on the mat. A rose by any other name, Sportsnight is next.
Such an awe moment.
It was. And what a fun game we were witness to on Friday night. Really, the two games that we were able to do last week were fantastic games. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sportsnight. I'm Joe Young.
I'm Howie Shapiro. In case people didn't know.
Yeah, and we've got a good show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. But, the two games... To have two games that were that exciting and on that level with the kind of opponents they were facing and what those two games meant, to have two of those in the same week is not a common occurrence. So it was a lot of fun. We will get to highlights of both of those contests, but we start with the boys hockey team. They started last week with a huge rivalry game facing off against the Blaine Bengals on Thursday. The Cardinals-Bengals rivalry is legendary across all sports. Add in the fuel of the Panthers versus the Bengals, two programs that share a rink, and what you have is the makings of a major battle. But Blaine is having its best season in years. They came in at 10-4, and they'd be looking for revenge after going 0-3 against Spring Lake Park and Coon Rapids as separate teams last season. Bengals jumped to a very early lead, less than 90 seconds into the game. Porter Bayer spins into the corner, sends a backhand out front. He follows it up and pokes the puck home. The freshman getting Blaine on the board first, and they add to it midway through the first off an SLPCR turnover. Wilson Goose plays it out front for the redirect past Lewick. Bengals up 2-0 after one. SLPCR on the power play late in the second period, and it looked like they got on the board. Shot is wide, couple of guys poking away out front, but as they begin to celebrate, it's immediately waved off, and it stays 3-0 Bengals. Just 2 minutes later, SLPCR with a major power play, but the Bengals get the shorthanded 2-on-1. Porter Bayer and older brother Cooper on the rush. Cooper pokes it home at the end, 4-0 Blaine. SLPCR is able to avoid the shutout with a power play tally early in the third period. Drew Lindquist with a takeaway along the boards, sets up Caden Sukup in the slot, his fifth of the year, but it was the only one of the night for SLPCR. Bengals close it out with a 6-1 win.
Yeah, tough loss for the guys, obviously. They wanted to beat the Bengals, quite obviously. And you'd mentioned Blaine having a really good season coming into this game.
They are, and they're a team, obviously, early in the 2000s, which to you and I doesn't seem that long ago. They were the dominant force in the section. They went to something like 4 or 5 state tournaments over a 6-year span in the early 2000s. But over the last couple of years, they've struggled a little bit. And as you mentioned, or as I mentioned, both Coon Rapids beat them twice, and Spring Lake beat them last year. So a little bit of revenge for the Bengals. They on Saturday, right? That was Thursday, Thursday and Saturday were their games. They went to Andover and they lost to the Huskies by a 4-1 score. Teddy Wackman had the lone goal for SLPCR with an assist to Caden Elfin. Brock Lewick did everything he could, 35 saves, but they lose 4-1 to the Huskies. They have 2 home games at the Crick this week. They host New Prague on Tuesday, and Howie,
we'll be there.
They host Irondale on Thursday, and Howie,
we'll be there.
As of right now, we have heard that basketball games have been moved from Tuesday to Wednesday as schools for Anoka Hennepin have been closed, it sounds like, for Tuesday. So we'll, fingers crossed, still have some hockey games.
Before we move on to girls hockey, one point of interest for the game tomorrow night against New Prague. I had a chance to talk to their head coach today. Their leading scorer is just a sophomore, Joe. Just a sophomore. But even better yet for you, he's 5'6".
That's my kind of player.
I knew you'd love that. Well, the girls hockey team has just 4 games left in its regular season, and this squad is showing its growth and its readiness to make a run in the playoffs. Last week, they took on conference and section leading Centennial Spring Lake Park. They were 16-2 and ranked 3rd in the state. They beat CPCR 7-2 early in the year, but this time, CPCR gave them all they could handle and put some serious fear into the Centennial squad. Cougars pounce on a CPCR mistake early in the first. A turnover at the blue line turns into a 2-on-1. Mia Such with a redirect pass. Grace Lund from point-blank range. Centennial on the board first. Well, they're going to get another just 30 seconds later. Alexis Larson races down the wing, cuts to the middle, beats Lund with a wrist shot from the hash marks. It's 2-0 with the first 2 shots of the game. Still in the first, CPCR goes end-to-end. Sydney Bernovic to Lily McKenzie into the corner. She finds June Sembling coming up here. That's where you see him in the corner, and Sembling's going to cut the lead in half just before the break. CPCR taking advantage of Centennial turnover early in the second. Nola Milton fires it ahead, sends it to Bernovic, and on the breakaway, she gets her 10th of the year, and it's tied at 2 midway through. Well, but Mia Such scored that 1 goal. She's going to strike again just a couple of minutes later. She gets a steal at center ice, walks right in through the top of the slot, shooting back against the grain for her second of the night. Centennial SLP back in front. 10 minutes left in the game. Kelly Alphen with a great stretch pass to send Semling in on a breakaway. She's going to show patience on the backhand, her second of the game. It's going to tie it at 3. Now, it's just the second time this year Centennial has given up 3. Unfortunately, they got the winner late in the period. Tegan Kuhlenkamp leads the rush, tries a similar move. Lund makes the save, but CPCR can't clear, can't control. Maddie Walter will be the one to finish it off. Cougars going to add an empty net goal for the 5-3 win. But Joe, this is one of the games you talked about. We did phenomenal game. It was
fantastic,
a lot of fun.
fantastic. As you mentioned, just the second time this season that Centennial Spring Lake Park has allowed 3 goals in a game.
Yep.
They definitely were worried about it. That was not the position they expected to be in the latter half of the third period. But SLPCR hung right with them. It's unfortunate they couldn't, get that one more and get over. But we talked about it. They're having a solid year, the CPCR.
Really good year.
But in their games against those top-ranked opponents, they've kind of struggled, and they've had lapses of just short lapses, 3 to 5 minutes, where they've given up 2 to 3 goals, and a close game has gotten out of hand, and then things snowballed behind that. It absolutely didn't happen against Centennial Spring Lake Park. They played 51 full minutes, and going into that game, that was the top 2 teams in the conference and the top 2 teams in the section. So I guarantee Centennial Spring Lake Park, as they start to look at the tournament brackets, when we get to that point in just a couple of weeks, they're going to hope that they don't see CPCR at all, and if they do, it's at the very end.
It would be probably at the very end.
I guarantee they would much rather if someone else were to somehow be able to knock them out. But CPCR, I think, is going to be going into that tournament. Maple Grove, obviously, also a major contender.
For sure.
But those 3, CPCR will be a little bit of a dark horse, but they've proven they've beaten Maple Grove, and they took Centennial Spring Lake Park to the edge.
Yeah, and as we always talk about, if that situation arises and they face them again, always tough to beat a team 3 times in a year.
Yeah. Well, both those teams bounced back in a big way against the same team later in the week. Crookston Pirates came to town. They played Centennial Spring Lake Park on Friday and lost 7-1. And then on Saturday, Tessa Bowden with a wrist shot on a power play that just trickles through to give them a 1-0 lead. And still early in the period, a shorthanded goal for Caitlin Easton put CPCR up 2-0. They held on for a 2-1 win. But, on the flip side, we talk about how great, it was to see how they played against the Centennial Spring Lake Park, a highly ranked team. Here's a team in Crookston that Centennial just beat 7-1.
Yep.
You've got to find a way to make your opportunities count. Outshot them 41-12, but had to hold on for a 2-1 win. Those are the games you want to see in complete control, start to finish.
Absolutely, and we've seen that a couple of times this year. Outshoot opponents by great margins, only get a goal or 2.
Yeah, and so finishing, it was huge though too. At the same time, to see the 2 goals came from the second line. Caitlin Easton and Tessa Bowden. And June Sembling did have a couple of assists. Sydney had, I think, an assist as well. But Lily was held off the score sheet. And the fact that they got a win without that first line, doing what they normally do, that's huge.
Absolutely.
They are at Rogers on Tuesday, looking for the season sweep against that section opponent, and then they will host Wayzata on Saturday. Wrestling team started its week with a tri-meet at Blaine. It started out against Elk River. Elk River just outside the top 12 in the state. They're in the lean and mean, but they handed the Cardinals a 40-30 loss. 3 pins on the night. Bridenstine at 33. Kostic at 139 and Skillings at heavyweight. Vashi Ebradlidze had an overtime win, 19-16 at 160. They had one other decision in the 40-30 loss. Well, the Cardinals were hoping for a better result against their hosts, but the Bengals had other ideas. The Cardinals won the border battle last season, but this time around, Blaine used its strength at the lower weights to build a big lead early, and they kept the Cardinals at distance all night. Blaine won the first 3 matches, 2 of them by pin. Tyler Ribeiro stops the bleeding at 127. Great roll to put his opponent straight to his back. He gets chest to chest to get the pin. Cardinals on the board with bonus points. Captain Jack Bridenstine is on the mat next, and he continues his dominance this season. Check out how tight this cradle is. Just absolutely no chance to get out of that. Bridenstine with a pretty quick pin. And just like that, Cardinals back within 15-12. Unfortunately, Blaine won the next 5 matches and had already clinched the win. First-year wrestler Jacob Califoot, though, scored an impressive first-period pin at 189, forcing his man to the mat early and just sticking with it. All of the Cardinals' wins come by fall. Captain Hayden Skillings gets him another one at heavyweight. He's up to 5th in the state rankings. The Cardinals fall to the Bengals by a 44-24 score.
Yeah, Bridenstine and Skillings having obviously a really good year. Both of them ranked on the guillotine. And can we just call him Captain Jack? Just Captain Jack. We don't
That's
have to
why
do
I said it that way.
I know. That's why I said it. It's perfect. I love it.
And he's got a lot of personality. It's a little bit different than the Captain Jack Sparrow character of movie, but he goes about his business, and he's been getting it done for sure. He did it again over the weekend at the Lightning Invitational. Bridenstine was a champion at the Lightning Invitational, going 3-0 with 2 pins and a tech fall. Gilbert Kostic and Hayden Skillings finished 3rd place at 139 and 285 respectively. A couple of 5th place finishes for Adrian Chang and Tyler Ribeiro. Tristan Hargrave and Don Shamir Fisher finished in 6th place. Also, shout out to a couple of the girls competing also in the Lightning Invitational. Freshman Madison Marquise finished 1st place at 106. Sophomore Jacqueline Shear was 1st place at 190. Ray Turgu-Polotova was 2nd place, and Mattis Estradi was 3rd place. 3 JV guys also took tournament championships at those Eastview Lightning Invitational. Yep. Turgu-Polotova.
I love it.
It's such a great
Good job.
They've got a tournament coming up at Irondale, the Knights Invite, on Thursday. And then they are at Maple Grove a week from Friday, and Wayzata will also be there for a tri-meet. Gymnastics team, we promised we talked a little bit about it. They went north for their first meet of the new year, and they scored a nice 119, a 119.95. To be precise, almost got to the 120, but just some great efforts at that tournament. Callie Barker was 1st place on the vault and on the bars. She was also 1st on the all-around, finished 2nd on the floor. Bailey Roller was 5th place on the beam, and Angel Marshall was 4th place on the vault. Then last week on, what was that, Wednesday? The 15th, so close. Their score dropped down a little bit, and they lose by less than a half a point to Park Center, a 112.225 to 112.75. Callie Barker continues to lead the way, first place on the bars with Angel Marshall in second, first place on the floor with Angel Marshall in second. Bailey Roller was first place on the vault. Angel Marshall finished second on the beam. Angel Marshall actually was their number one, the first place in the all-around with Callie Barker in second.
Missed it by
that much.
Yeah. Well, on Friday, the Cardinals traveled to Champlin Park for a double duel with the Rebels and the Crimson. All three teams were there. The only problem, there were no judges. A super rare scheduling error meant the girls would take the mat with two conference opponents for an unscored scrimmage. Coach Cable has raved about the team's attitude this season, so it was no surprise to see them take this opportunity to put their best foot forward without being too concerned about a score. The Cardinals have battled through some illness and injury this season, and as luck would have it, they had the whole lineup there on Friday, but without judges, unfortunately. It was just for posterity. The team's leadership has been outstanding this season, according to Hable. Captain Callie Barker has led by example, posting the team's best score in most events on those nights. Angel Marshall and Bailey Roller also have been consistent performers, helping them grow their team scores. And hopefully next time they take the mat, they're able to hit that elusive 120. They almost had it. Almost had a 1.1995, 1.1995.
I think they would have scored at least a 121 with their performances on Friday night. Darn judges.
I know, right?
But I was just reviewing
Have you ever heard of Uber?
Coach Hable said the coaching staff really appreciates how hard this team is working. You mentioned Callie, Angel, and Bailey. Yep. Nora Ross, Avery Rath also deserve mention. And a special shout out to Camille Banks, a seventh grader. They had to pull up to the varsity for beam and floor because of the injuries they've been dealing with.
Very cool.
So she just said the entire team working really hard to finish the season strong. And that's fantastic. Tough that they didn't have the judges there. What are the chances that you finally get your lineup card full and the judges don't show up? And CTN has a camera there too.
Yeah,
I mean, everything else lined up except for the judges. But hey, they're at Osseo a week from Wednesday. They have this week off. Yep. That will be a double duel with Elk River. And then they are at Anoka on Thursday, February the 6th. Swimming and diving team had this past week off. They were supposed to have a meet against Armstrong Cooper. We were supposed to be there, but then that had to be postponed, so they had the week off. Got in some rest, and Coach Haley Scholl said they're very ready for a couple of big matches this week. They're at Blaine on Tuesday, and they are at Andover on Thursday. Nordic ski team, Mother Nature doing a bit of the roller coaster, but they're getting their events in. We talked a little bit last week. One of the boys' team's leaders, unfortunately, suffered an injury in the relays. They're hoping that Albie will be able to get back with them and finish, because I believe he's a senior too. So, hate to see anybody miss time in the sports that they enjoyed during the high school seasons, because it is such a very short time. They did have a race last week on Wednesday. There were no team scores, but there are your times for the boys team. No surprise to see Lachlan Demmer way ahead of his teammates, posting a 13-minute flat for the 5K. Joshua Hyatt was next to cross at 15:39. Nick Ryland 16:22. Alan Wing in 16:54. And Falk finished in 19:35. On the girls' side, Bethany Law and Ruby Demmer are going to be very strong competitors coming to the conference championships just next week, and then section right around the corner. Both have a chance to do something special. They continue to be the top performers for the team. 16:56 and 17:30 respectively. Ella Legree was in next in just under 19. Megan Fuller at 19:43, and then Faith Koo at 19:56. On Saturday, the ABC relays, and I think there were about 35 or 40 total relay teams of 4 athletes. So as you look at the numbers, boys finishing a little below the middle of the pack in 20th place. But remember, they're missing one of their strongest racers,
for sure.
Especially in those relay events. Nick Ryland and Alan Wing handled the Classic in 30th and 45th place. Lachlan Demmer, another fantastic finish, 8th place in just 8:38 for his freestyle. Falk was their 4th member. He finished 57th in the freestyle. On the girls' side, their top relay team finished in 9th place. Ella Legree and Megan Fuller ran the Classic, while Bethany Law and Ruby Demmer took care of the freestyle. A 3rd place and 11th place finishes for Law and Demmer. As I mentioned, they're going to be dangerous come tournament time, which is right around the corner. They're at Elm Creek on Thursday this week. The Arctic blast that we're supposed to, I should be letting you do this. You're the meteorologist around here. But the Arctic blast is going to turn into a warming trend for the end of the week.
Yes, it is.
And we're going to be back maybe above freezing over the weekend. It's in at least into the mid-20s for Hockey Day Minnesota down in Shakopee on Saturday.
First day today, I didn't go up on the roof to check the Doppler. It was just too cold. It's just too cold.
And the door was frozen shut.
Well, that's beside the fact. They wanted me to climb up that ladder on the outside of the building. I said no.
So they're at Elm Creek on Thursday. The Northwest Suburban Conference Championships are scheduled for next Monday, and I believe it's going to be just about perfect for the races, right in those mid-20s. Not too cold, but cold enough that the ice or the snow should stay good. Alpine ski team had race number 3 last week. The boys team finishing in 10th place. Ben Simon was their top finisher in 63rd. Stroman finished in 68th. Augustin in 70th. Lincoln in 78th with just under a minute and a half. And then Bauer finished right behind in 1:31.16. On the girls' side, 9th place. They had 1 DQ, so only 4 finishers. Drummy was first across in 55th. The Greenwalds in 64th and 71st. And I think I screwed up. I think they have different first initials. I'll have to check on that. And then Bridenstine finished in 72nd place. I do make mistakes. It does happen. Race 4 for the Alpine ski team is at Wild Mountain on Thursday. Next Thursday, they're back at Trollhagen for the final regular season race of the season. Boys basketball team, both basketball teams playing a rare Monday game last week. The boys were at home hosting Maple Grove, and they saw their home win streak come to an end, losing to the Crimson 88-64. Jackson Young, 22 points, wrong game. He had 22 points, 8 boards, 8 assists, while Tegan Plum-Tate had 27 points, couple of steals. But boy, the numbers dropped dramatically after that. Samson LeClaire and Connor Young each had 3 points and 1 steal in that game. 3 points also for John Pintz. On Saturday, this is one that stings a little bit. An Osseo team, they really felt they had a chance to get a win on the road. They come up just a couple of points short, losing 75-71. Jackson Young in that one, a double-double, 22 points, 14 boards. Tegan Plum-Tate, 18 points, 5 rebounds. 18-point effort from Connor Young. He had 4 assists, and Jeremy Oddie also in double digits with 10. But it's just not quite enough. They lose a tough one.
Yeah, and in that particular game, they missed a 3 with about 30 seconds left that would have given them the lead. And unfortunately, in those situations, you're down to the last few seconds. You didn't get a chance to get the ball back, and unfortunately, you lose the game. But, it would have been a big win for them had they been able to get it, because they need those kind of wins.
They do. Well, the Cardinals finished a busy week with a visit from section rival Cambridge Isani on Friday night. It started as 2 evenly matched teams trying to end a losing streak by scoring their first section win of the year. It turned into a wild roller coaster ride with a couple of epic performances, and its dramatic ending made it an instant CTN classic. Cambridge Isani got off to the fast start, and it looked like they were going to run away with this one. Emerson Druby had a huge game for the Blue Jackets. He had 21 points in the first half. Cambridge scored the first 15 points of the game, and they built their lead as high as 22 by midway through the first half. But don't count the Cardinals out. Connor Young, had a couple of big three-pointers as part of a 14-0 Cardinals run. Great passing to get him the open look here. Connor finished with 15 in the game. Then, in the final minute of the first half, taking Plowman Tate hitting from the left wing. Again, good passing, get the open look. Cardinals back within one. They went to the locker room down by 4. Second half, Blue Jackets trying to build that lead back up. Drewby hit a three-pointer from the corner. He had a game-high 34 points. The Cardinals have a superstar of their own, and Jackson Young started to take over early in the second half. He had 5 of the team's 7 three-pointers in the second half. That's in the second half. Young was unconscious. There was a stretch late in the half where he outscored Cambridge 13-2, giving the Cardinals their first lead of the ball game with just under 5 minutes to go. That's right, he outscored Cambridge 13-2. But give the Blue Jackets credit, they battled back to the final buzzer. Takeaway along the sidelines turns into a transition back to the basket for Tanner Jones. That tied the game with under 30 seconds to go and sent us to overtime. Cardinals take control in the extra period. TPT with a drive to the lane. He gets the roll to put the Cardinals back in front. Plowman Tate finished with 18. Cardinals' patience pays off on their next possession. Good passing to get Kieran Wymore a wide open look. The home team able to hold on from there for an 82-78 win in overtime. Absolutely monster game from Jackson Young. He finishes with a career best 33 points, his third game of 30 or more this season. And how about the Young household? Again, they combined for 48 points.
Yeah, Taz definitely getting the start the last couple of games. As you mentioned, Cody DeGogo was a no-go last couple of games. He's dealing with some, I believe, an injury of some sort. And in the meantime, you know, I always talk to the coaches at the break, and I was thinking when they were down 21, 22 points, you know, what am I going to talk to Coach O about? But it quickly changed. All of a sudden, it was 4 points. So I just love the tenacity of this team. I love the defensive effort that they gave forth in this game. And
it's such a monster game,
Wymore,
just all the way around.
Yeah, Wymore really played well coming off the bench. What do you have, a dozen
I think
points?
He finished with 10.
10 points. But yeah, he just did a really nice job, but not only offensively, but defensively. I thought he hustled so well.
And I was going to bring that up, especially in the overtime. He was everywhere. And for him to get that big separator basket that put him up by 5 was gigantic. He did finish with 10 points, but so many great things that happened in that game from first being down 20 plus. They only had 2 baskets. They had 6 points on the board midway through the first half, and they closed it out strong. They showed so many different good character things in that comeback, but also Connor Young. Those 2 games, his last 2 games have been the most points. Those 2 games, the most points scored by anyone other than Jackson or Tegan Plowman Tate. We could keep going, but we do have to get through the girls as well. Boys, again, their game against Park Center has been pushed until Wednesday, and then on Friday they are at Rogers. Girls team also started against Maple Grove on the road, and this one we're just going to kind of forget about. They lost 90-18. Those were the only 3 players with points.
Well, the Cardinals had a good chance to bounce back on Wednesday, facing another team struggling to find success. The Osseo Orioles were 3-9. They had lost 6 in a row and hadn't been able to celebrate a win in more than a month. As the saying goes, something had to give, and one of these teams was going to end a long skid. And it took overtime to decide it. Early on, Osseo trying to establish control on the scoreboard. Tashea Anderson with a runner down the right side of the lane. She was one of 8 players with points for the Orioles. Cardinals were trailing but keeping it close. Jakaya Palmer hits this 3-pointer off the glass, plus the foul. Still Osseo on top 33-26 at the half. Early in the second, Kelly McGrain with a great steal. She gets it up court quickly. Rochelle Cooper behind the defense. She scores. Cooper had a double-double with a game-high 21 points plus 13 boards. Cardinals gaining some momentum, and the bounce goes their way. It's kicked right to Chloe Porras for the 3-pointer. That ties the game at 45. Leah Graham, she also had a game-high 21 points, and this is a pretty move right here. Spinning her way into the paint, Coon Rapids was up 56-48 at that time. Well, the Blackbirds battle right back. Orioles get to Nevaeh Torma. in the low post. She's able to body her way to the bucket and a foul. That's going to tie the game at 58. Torma had 18 points for Osseo. Final minute, Cardinals down 1 in transition. Cooper hits a long three-pointer. That made it 63-61. Unfortunately, they break down on defense. Orioles push the pace and find Brooke Bomar underneath the basket. That ties it and sends the game into OT. In the extra session, they go back to the big body down low. Torma bangs her way inside to put Osseo on top. Final seconds, Cardinals trail by 4. They get Porsche an open look from the wing. It's off the mark at the buzzer, but it wouldn't have been enough anyway. Cards lose a heartbreaker, 78-74. Joe Young.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and you saw Torma she can bang down low, and that's an asset they definitely rolled with in the extra session. But Cardinals did end their skid on Saturday with a 72-52 win over Apple Valley. Jakaya Palmer, 26 points, 7 steals. Aaliyah Graham had 14 points, 4 boards, 14 points for McGreen, added 6 assists. Rochelle Cooper with 9 points, 4 steals, and Chloe Porish, excuse me. Kaylee was a while ago.
A little time ago.
10 years ago. She had 3 points and 1 rebound. They are at Park Center. That game also pushed to Wednesday. They will host Rogers on Friday. But that's going to do it for us this week. Here's a look at what we're doing. Boys hockey on Thursday against New Prague, or on Tuesday against New Prague, on Thursday against Iredale. Then on Tuesday next week, we'll see the boys basketball team as they host Spring Lake Park. But that's going to do it for this edition of Sportsnight. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Continue to support everything we do here at CTN. For the entire crew, including Howard Shapiro, I'm Joe Young saying good night.